In a withering rebuke of New York City's public housing authority, the federal government on Monday accused officials of systematic misconduct and indifference in the management of the city's housing projects, endangering residents and workers and potentially leaving more children than previously known poisoned by lead paint in their apartments.
Federal prosecutors in Manhattan said the Housing Authority, the nation's largest with 400,000 poor and working-class residents, also covered up its actions, lying to the government and the public about its failure to comply with lead paint regulations and training its staff on how to mislead federal inspectors.
The problems at the authority reflect management dysfunction and organizational failure, the prosecutors said, including a culture where spin is often rewarded and accountability often does not exist.
The accusations were contained in an 80-page civil complaint brought against the authority, known as NYCHA, by the Office of Jeffrey S. Berman, the United States Attorney in Manhattan, which was filed in federal court along with a consent decree. In signing the consent decree, NYCHA admitted to the conduct, and as part of a broad settlement, the city agreed to spend an additional $1 billion on the authority over the next 4 years, and $200 million per year after that until a judge agrees to end the decree.
The court will also appoint a monitor to oversee NYCHA. The authority is chartered by the state, funded mostly through federal grants and rent receipts. The mayor chooses its leadership and largely directs its strategy. The settlement will be announced at a news conference on Monday, according to Mr. Berman's office, and follows recent news reports that the administration of Mayor Bill de Blasio was in the final stages of negotiating the terms of the agreement.
In 2016 it became public that prosecutors were investigating environmental, health and safety conditions in the city's public housing, deteriorating conditions that followed years of federal disinvestment, as well as possible false claims submitted by the city to the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Mr. de Blasio, who has boasted of his record spending on public housing to fix roofs and other improvements, said in November that the investigation could end with a federal monitor. The complaint released on Monday showed how expansive the investigation was, encompassing fundamental aspects of NYCHA operations. It built a case that NYCHA had failed in its most basic mission, to provide decent, safe and sanitary housing, and that officials had actively sought to conceal the problems from outsiders.
The complaint does not name Shola Olatoye, the former NYCHA chairwoman who recently resigned amid public scrutiny over her handling of the lead paint issue, or other NYCHA officials.
According to the consent decree, NYCHA residents each year have made thousands of complaints about mold growth, insufficient heat and infestations of cockroaches, mice and rats.